Welcome back from that very short break. Like I told you earlier, we're having a conversation around May Day expectations of workers, call for improved welfare, what to indeed expect. In the studio to discuss all of that and what Nigerian youths and workers should start looking forward to is Dan Obo. He is the special advisor on youth mobilization to Crossroads State Government. Thank you so much for being part of today's edition.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you.
Yeah,
youth mobilization. How is that going? How is your office?
Excellent. We're pushing, trying our best to mobilize young people. We're part of government programs and initiatives. Basically, that's what we do.
That's the conversation we were having a couple of days ago, where we keep discussing this issue of participation, having government, young people participate in governance. Has it been tough for you? Would you say that it's been tough to get mobilization to actively participate? I was saying that we love to complain a lot, and when government actually has initiatives where you could come air your grievances respectfully and politely and constructively, we don't see those young people there. We don't see people engage so much. What would you say first of all are the challenges?
Yeah, it could be awareness. It could also be an issue of being conscious of what you want. Like the saying goes, you can take a horse to the river, but you can't force it to drink. Young people are engaged in too many ways. It must not necessarily be government. But it's quite unfortunate that as of today, we feel that one of the best things to do is to be part of government. All of us cannot be part of government.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like what you're doing here as one of us, you're not a government appointee. So, but when we collectively get all of these skills together, certainly we'll be able to get what we want. And there's no job that is not difficult. Every job is difficult, right? The task of putting one or two together, there's a certain mentality that exists now, and you can't take that away. At every time you gather young people, you must demobilize them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the area.
Is that a wrong one?
Yes,
is it not true?
That's what it is, but it's not correct.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you an opportunity to air what you feel. It doesn't give you an opportunity. He who pays the piper
dictates the tone.
And so when you leave your house and say, I'm going for a youth mobilization to know what government is doing, what programs government have for young people in the various ministries, departments, and all of that. Then you go with anticipation of getting transport to return. And so whatever they tell you, you will believe, whether it is true or not.
Yeah, that's exactly where I want to come from. You see, I want to ask, what is the response of the youths you are mobilizing? Are they actually responding positively or negatively? What is the response?
What do you mean respond? How do you mean?
Okay. Take for instance, it's mobilization. You mobilize them, bring them together. In bringing them together, are they actually coming out?
Yes, they are.
They are coming out.
Yes, they are.
And what is their take home? Take for instance, after meetings, are they willing to come out again, or there must be an incentive, or some people who come because there's an incentive there, or people just come voluntarily because we want to support?
Yeah, sometimes they can come, right? And then their expectations are not met, they won't come again. It's human nature.
Okay.
Now, what are the expectations? It could be demobilization, right? Some it could be to actually understand the state and federal government programs, initiatives for young people. If they don't see themselves fitting in any, they won't come again. That's what it is.
That's true. Let's take the conversation back to Nigerian workers.
Okay.
There's been the call for improved welfare. What are your thoughts, especially because we only just landed a 70,000 naira minimum wage that we celebrated? But look at the purchasing power of an average Nigerian. Look at the inflation rate at the moment. Everything is tough. And workers are saying, you know what? Federal government do better. What are your thoughts on that?
With all sense of respect, you can't go to school and come out and say you want to be a civil servant today in Nigeria. You can't. That's how bad it is. And for me, the continuous strike does not make sense to me. And so if you wake up in the morning and say they are paying a personal assistant to a governor, for example, about 200,000, why should a civil servant go home with 70,000? What are your reasons? Right? you put in 35 years of your you should use to struggle, right? You're still strong. 35 years, when you finish, to even get what you earn at the end of the 5 years service is a problem. So there's a leadership crisis within the NLC, the TUC, and all of that, because they are responsible for the welfare of their people. So when you say this is what we want for civil servants, let it be so. If it doesn't work, you crash the country, that's all. Not to say this is what you want for your people. They call you say leave it, you leave it, you come back again like ASU. You do to and fro, you make yourself look like a child. So government will no longer take you serious.
Absolutely.
That's from when I was very young when Obasanjo was president, right? He got to Yar'Adua, he got to Jonathan, right? He got to Buhari, and today is our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You are still talking about the welfare of civil workers. Does it make sense to you? Does it really make sense?
Absolutely not.
So it's a lead, and you keep recycling those leaders by re-electing them back to sit on that throne. So what other negotiation do you expect them to do? You can't give what you don't have.
So what would you
has Cross River domesticated the 70,000?
Yes, of course.
And they are paying.
Yes, of course.
Kudos.
Our civil servants are good.
Kudos.
Our civil servants celebrate our governor as much as they can. Our governor is a fantastic man. He's been in the Senate. He introduced empowerment in our state. In this nascent democracy, I call it, he's the first, right? He's the first to come out, give land to individuals and give them 500,000 to begin the building. Give them with CFO and give them with a vehicle. This happened far back in 2003. So that's why when he was on the ballot for governor, it was as if a Messiah has come. Just that's exactly what it is.
Okay. Generally, what do you expect workers to do, right, as it is today?
Yes, I have told you first is that, if you have a mother who is about 75 years old or a father, and you see him or her in the gate of government house asking for pension, does it make sense to you?
Absolutely not.
It is based on that I'm asking.
So we expect their leadership to elect leadership that will be able to speak for workers, right? We expect that at the same account they use in paying salary, when you retire at 35, they should give you the money. They should give you the money, at least for the sake of...
Without the hurdle they have
yes, for the sake of your health,
exactly.
right? Having put in your strength for 35 years to work for government. That's why I started by saying that there's no young man, except out of frustration, that will see advertisement to become a civil servant, and you go and apply.
Because it is, would you say it's because it is not attractive
No,
any
it's not.
longer?
No,
It is no longer
I won't say
attractive.
because that's what it is. It's not.
The other day,
difficult to
I
be
was
blind.
reading the pages of newspaper. I found out that people from the east no longer join the military, and somebody was asking, "What is the problem?" And another person came up to say, "Because it's no longer interested." And if you could go to business and do and earn that much, something that you earn in a month, in a business on that one day you earn it, why would you want to go and join? So the way it is today, what do you think that government should do to ameliorate the sufferings of the workers today?
Yes, everything rises and falls on leadership, right?
Both from the government?
No,
and
not the government at this point. For me, I don't blame government.
Okay.
I blame the leadership of workers who have not remained firm in terms of negotiating for their staffs. That's what my point is. I give you an example. I've served my state as a youth council chairman for 4 years. In these 4 years, I did not go to anybody's house who wants to run elections. 23 people wanted to be governor, came to our office to tell us they want to be governor, but that wasn't the pattern. The pattern was that when you hear that Joy wants to be governor, so as young people, you go to Joy and say, we hear you want to be governor. What kind of plans do you have for us? But we needed to manage our state youth structure in such a manner that you find, because you can't negotiate with the weak. So you find us come, and you come to our office, because we have an address, and come and tell us you want to be governor. And you tell us what you have for young people. And we'll tell you whether we will support you. In fact, one was shocked from my own federal constituency when I said I won't support you, and the youth of Cross River will not support you. He sat by me like this.
What was your justification for that?
Yes, it will have a political culture in our state for governorship, one senatorial district to the other. So to him, it has gone round like Osusu So he can start from
There is
anywhere.
no
He
reaching
says,
turn.
he can start from anywhere. And we said, no, it's a turn of the South, not Central. And so when he came out under the PDP, we said, no, we won't vote for you. And we did not. We did not. So, as leadership for government workers, right, we expect that when you say, look, this seven, as of today, some states have not paid 70,000. Is it not so?
That's why I asked you the
So,
question.
so all their leadership will do is to come to the pages of newspaper and say, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states have not paid, they should pay. How do you enforce that? You're weak even as NLC. You're weak even as TUC. You're weak because when you go into closed door, take decision, come out, talk to your workers, they respect your opinion. In another 2 weeks, you ask them to go back to work, nothing has changed. And tomorrow you come again and say they should go to strike. Does it make any sense to you? You're playing with the future.
You're right, it doesn't make sense. But let's go back to the welfare of workers. Let's talk about productivity. So much is expected of the Nigerian worker. Would you say that much productivity goes into their jobs? There are, it seems like everybody knows when we talk about the Nigerian civil servants, for instance, like you don't expect much from them. There's that attitude towards work when you work for government. Has it improved? Should we also, in the same vein, expect more from them as the case may be?
Without, if we are not excellent, we won't have government today. We won't. If the Nigerian worker is not efficient, right, it's not putting on his best, and miss the poor take home.
State right.
Right? If they don't put in their best, we won't have a country. What are the politicians doing? If you go, you have a permanent secretary. A permanent secretary runs the ministry, and that is a civil servant. The minister comes and go, the commissioner comes and go, the SA comes and go, but they are permanent. If you bring military now, in Rivers State, the state of emergency, is it not so? Do you affect the civil servant?
No, it doesn't.
So the state is running. The meaning is that they have give and take 70-80% responsibility to getting our country work, and they are doing so. So they should go home with what they deserve. That's my point.
And a lot of conversations are rife around the presidency and his initiatives for improving workers' welfare. Seems like not much is being done to that. We have promises.
Is that the president's responsibility to?
No, I'm talking about the federal government, right?
Yeah, it's not the president.
There are policies that are within the president's table that we should expect. For instance, the take home of 70,000 naira. We're hearing workers are telling you at the moment that it is no longer sufficient to take home. Literally take home.
It doesn't take them home.
It doesn't take them home. So that is the president's proclamation, for instance. What would you expect the president to do? You have just said that the civil service is no longer an attractive place to work.
Yes,
at.
of course.
So if you were president, if you can advise president, what would you do?
If I'm president, right, the first thing I'll do is very simple. Whatever it is as an individual, because I won't depend on the leadership, because the leadership will end up doing negotiation, right? We can advise the president to use his veto power to say, look, this 70,000, I should go to states. Every state, some states have about 300 appointees, right? Some states have less than that. In fact, Bala Mohammed just appointed 100
plus.
Plus something PEs. So there's no, excuse me, there's none of that PE that will go home with less than 300,000 or 250 or 200, right? As president, he needs to let go whatever the association leadership is doing and use his veto power to increase the salaries of these people and also give them a face. And then be very, you see, PENCOM, this and that, pension, padding, all of that. Be very specific that, look, you as a governor or as a president, as your living office, you're living what belongs to you. Well, I've never seen any of them go back to say you've not paid.
No, they have what they call their severance packages.
So they take it, they get it monthly, even up to the office of Speaker of the State Assembly. So the same way they do that, let the civil servant, let it apply to the civil servant. You have a database of those who retire. When they retire, it's simple. You have retired, you're supposed to take home 10 million, 15 million. You just pay, let him go and plan his life. Be fair enough to do so.
Okay.
Be fair enough to do that. So the president should be concerned. No, after look at where you're seated here, right? To me, you're a civil servant. And you retire at 70 something. What are you going to do at home? at some point no house. You think that your retirement money is what you might use to plaster your house after you build foundation to a certain level. So there are a lot of things you can do with that money. So there's only keeping it until you get to 80 and go and beg on the gate. You beg for what you earn. It doesn't make sense. So as president, the same way you pay politicians, take home, I would be sure that civil servants pass through that route.
Okay. Now, when we talk about workers, people will think that worker is anyone who who wakes up in his house in the morning and go to one office or the other and come back in the evening. But now when we look at it from the incentives, we find out that it is those from the federal government and those from the state government are regarded as workers. What about other people that works in private organizations? What will you suggest for them? Because the increment we are talking about is for the federal and the local government, federal government and that of the state. What about people in the private sectors? What happens to their wages and salaries, so to say?
The prosperity is contagious.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you work in that kind of environment and you see what happens within the civil service cycle, certainly it will move up. Certainly it will get to you.
No.
The first step is to be sure that you domesticate what we're talking about, the welfare of the average civil servant. When that is done, right, those who are in the private sector, like you wake up and come to work here, right, if you don't find that comfort, you will go back to civil service. You will. And for you not to leave because you are of excellence here, you're adding value. For you not to leave here, you become an essential personality where the management will want to keep you. And in doing so, by nature, they will scale up.
By nature, they will scale up. Not by inducement or by coerciveness.
No.
But the point is that, do you think it is proper for the government to put up a legislation that empowers a worker in such organization to demand the right as it's also expected demand in the federal and state workers? Take for instance now, if the federal government is paying workers 70,000 naira and one in the private sector is being paid 45,000 and there's an increment 70,000, he can't ask for increment because there is no policy that says what we pay is what we are going to pay as long as both of them are of equal credentials.
Yes, you know, if you look at that scenario, right, those who have private organizations that employ people to pay, they have their regulations. And I'm sure that before you even get into the job, you would really understand that these are the regulations. I doubt if all there is something like pension or take home from the private sector.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? There's nothing like that. Now, if you take it into law, right, what you're going to end up getting is that you might even reduce the workforce of employment. Secondly, if the one in the civil service makes sense, as in Nigeria, you won't go to private sector.
There must be private sector because government cannot accommodate all.
I did not say there won't be, right? As an individual, as I sit here, if I discover that in government, to become a civil servant at the end of my 35 years, I won't go through pressure to get all my entitlement. I won't do anything. I'll go to civil service. I will. Now, what I'm saying is that I agree that there should be a legislation to that effect. But as of today, where there's no legislation to that effect, there is no two ways about it. The moment you get to this other side, you are coming here in this private sector because you feel dissatisfied with what happens in the civil service. It's not enticing. You don't want it because what you're doing here is also found in the civil service. But just that here is the private sector. I mean, I'll give you an example. You ask yourself why channels and your television here will be more sophisticated than NTA that is government funded. Have you asked yourself that? You know, you go to homes, people don't own NTA. They do more channels, AIT, Arise and all of that. But NTA is of government. So NTA should be more, so in terms of both staffs, equipment, and all of that. Outreach should be more than even any other radio television. So you get to understand that the challenge right? It's just in the system.
The challenge is in the system.
Yeah, so for me, I believe that first there should be a legislature to protect those who are working, who are not working for government, who are working for the private sector.
Exactly.
There should be. Secondly, in the same view, there should be the one that should allow civil servants after 35 years to take home freely without pressure.
We agree
There should
with
be
that.
also another one to make you in the private sector to say, look, you have to, you worked for 35 years, you're going to leave. As private sector, this is the percentage you should live with to go build yourself. All of these embodies around the union and the struggle.
Okay.
The union and the struggle.
Yes, speaking about the union and the struggle, the way the trade unions have comported themselves, would you say it is one that deserves what they are asking? It seems like they throw tantrums, and we keep talking about it here in the studio, where there are some state governors that flout some of those demands that they make, and you don't see much done you don't see much effort from the state government, from NLC trade unions to engage those state governments that flout those workers' rights. But immediately it is federal government. They hold the entire country to ransom and all of that. But if you have to appraise the way those trade unions, labor has so far engaged government, would you say it is what should be encouraged, or what would you suggest can be changed?
If they have engaged the government, like you rightly said, then you should, every engagement has result. So you judge every engagement according to the result you get.
We recorded a lot of strike
The result, the strike without result doesn't make any sense.
That's a form of engagement.
Yeah, but there's no result. So how do you rate an engagement that did not bring a result? How do you rate it?
So how are they comporting themselves in the first place? Is there something wrong with what they're doing?
Yeah, we don't know what they go to do in that conclave when they enter the villa.
I agree with you.
We don't know what they go and discuss there, but the result outside is poor.
Just like what we were discussing before this time, before you came.
So moving forward, because we're rounding up this conversation, what would your suggestion be moving forward with whenever they get these opportunities to go to the villa, what kind of engagement do you suggest that they should have?
Please let this be a two-barrel shot.
Okay.
Before you get to that, I want to know what is happening with the youths of Cross River State. Then you can wrap it up.
Yes. The youth of Cross River State, of course, you know, who have character. You can see one sitting very close to you. So it is inborn, for real. It is. Yeah, every young Cross Riverian is geared towards the future, and there's this emotional attachment to prosperity, excellence, where we come from. I think we inherited that from our forefathers. So you find every young Cross Riverian daring for excellence. And for we as a state, we have youth inclusion. Okay. We have a young commissioner. We have young special advisors. We have young people who are in government from the struggle, whether it is from the student union, whether it is from the youth union, and we're able to distinguish between a student union leadership and a youth leadership. You're expected to leave the student union leadership to the youth leadership. That's why for me, you can't find me around students, even if it is NANS. For me, I'm done with that platform. I am with the young people. So from the youth, I should move up, not to sit as you, and that's a major challenge with our young people. Not to sit as youth, and then you're attending NANS meeting. You sit as a youth leader, you're attending student union meeting, that you are their former leader. No, when you talk about stakeholder has to be of value, not extraction. When you call yourself a stakeholder and you're called upon, you should go to contribute, not to ask for quota. As I sit here, you cannot want to be NACRI's president. You don't have such courage to come to my house with a drink for Cross River. You don't. If you want to be NACRI's president, you come to me. I will advise you and dash your money, whether it is 10 naira. But you can't come to me with a drink, come to me with a small envelope, and say you want to be NACRI's president in my state. Go and find that. You can't find that.
So
you don't have such courage.
What do they come with?
Huh?
What do they come with?
No, you come on your own. And
you expect them to come with clean hands.
You just come on your own and say, look,
come and receive a blessing from him because he has passed through that very channel.
Yeah. So because by the time you stick to that situation, you're also taking yourself back.
Yes.
Because you won't think ahead. You will not.
You will be stuck with them.
You will be stuck.
Okay.
So I don't do that. Yesterday was Nancy inauguration. I would have gone, but I can't go because I'm not a student.
Right. Thank you so much for that. But now you have to wrap up.
Wrap
What
up.
do you expect moving forward? The
Forward.
better engagement and the kind of request you would expect the NLC, labor, rather trade unions and other bodies
You know,
to have?
first is that in 2023, it is a disgrace that NLC had a party and they failed the election. That's one.
Okay.
Yeah, because everybody that drives the processes of elections are civil servants. So we expect that NLC, who has the highest number of people, should be able to win an election and uphold the result. But for not doing so and doubling into democracy and losing, that's also reduced the pride of that institution. That's one. So the president needs to be deliberate about the welfare of his parents, of our parents. And in being deliberate, he should encourage Akpabio to introduce laws that will add value and keep our civil servants alive and keep hope alive for young people to be interested in being civil servants.
Dan Obo, thank you so much for being part of
alive.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being part of this this conversation. I hope that next time you stop by Abuja, we would have the honor of having you again in our studios. Thank you for your contributions.